After spending over $7 million on Facebook ads, I'm going to show you how you can run ads successfully and learn how to use an agency well, so that if you're a small business, or maybe you're just starting up, or maybe you're a larger business and you want to be able to use ads to grow clients, how you can do so successfully pretty well 99% of the time. Now, we worked with over 850 clients over the past 7 years at our agency Scalable, and we found that there are two things that you need to know when it comes to running Facebook ads successfully. The first thing is you need to apply fundamental advertising principles. That doesn't change, because the thing is, we're dealing with humans, which are the same things that advertisers 100 years ago were dealing with. So the principles, the fundamentals of advertising remains the same. But the second thing is knowing how to apply those concepts in the Facebook dashboard. So I'm going to show you in this particular video how to use and understand the principles, and then a little bit about how to apply them in the Facebook ads dashboard. So with that in mind, let's jump into the training. First thing, you need to understand that when you're running ads, the main thing is you're dealing with an audience. So you need to know your audience really well. Now, the best thing and the best way that I like to describe knowing your audience is understanding what they're feeling at the time. So you got to understand what is the mind state or the emotional state of your prospects at the time they see your ad. Because you want to really think about, if someone's on their phone, what are they feeling? What are they going through in their life? So the more that you can understand your audience, the better. Now, the best thing when it comes to understanding your audience is to talk to them. It's a very profound concept, but really, if you just talk to your market and you understand what they want and need, what their problems are, and what is the solution or goals they are looking for, you can really put together advertising that works. Now, obviously, you need to have a service or a product that can actually help them deliver their wants and needs, solve their problems, and provide a solution that actually works. So if you think about it, if you're selling toothpaste, the solution that you want is for people to have clean teeth and fresh breath, right? So you got to make sure that before you advertise, you have a product that you feel is going to help people in some form, in some way. Now, a really foundational concept to advertising is the acronym WIFYM, and it's what's in it for me, or WIFM, what's in it for me. So you got to understand and think through the lens of not, my product's so beautiful, my service is amazing, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best. People do not care about you. They do not care about your product. All they care about is themselves. People are very base in their needs. They don't care about you. They don't care about your story unless your story relates to them and your story resonates with their story. They don't care. So it's really important that you understand what their wants and needs and problems are, so you can form the basis of how you're going to put your ads together. So if we have an example of someone who's wanting to lose weight, that is the problem, and the want and the need they have is they really want to lose weight. The problem is they're overweight. They have a goal of losing such and such amount of weight. That really helps you understand from a high level who you're trying to go after. And then you can be more specific. What age range are they in? What gender are they in? And I will tell you that the more specific you can be with your audience, the better. In the fitness industry, what you'll find is that people have split off into so many different categories. You have busy men who are trying to escape the dad bod. You have women who are trying to overcome hormones and PCOS, which is, I don't know what it stands for, but it's a separate issue to men trying to overcome the dad bod. And so what you find is that people find new niches and new segments of the market by targeting those niches. You could even have, early 20s, like how to get jacked and how to get ripped. They're going to have a completely different set of wants and needs to the woman who's just had a pregnancy and is looking to lose weight post-pregnancy. You even have trainers who focus on post-pregnancy. Now, what I'm doing right now is giving you examples of how you can use your audience and how you can be specific with your audience to really talk to them. That is one of the most powerful, fundamental things that you can do with your advertising, is understand your audience, what their problems are, and how you can start to frame your service and product to solve their problem. Now, once you've understood your audience, the next thing you want to do is you want to go into what I call the angle, okay? So the angle is how are you going to communicate the service to them? What are some different ways that you can communicate your product to them, right? So if you're selling a product, say you're selling sunscreen, right? You could sell the sunscreen as being the most powerful sunscreen on the market. Or you could sell it as this sunscreen also gives you a suntan while protecting your skin. It could be this sunscreen doesn't contain any of the old chemicals that people are worried about and refuse to wear sunscreen because of those. This is an all natural organic blend of sunscreen. Or you could say this sunscreen isn't white, it's clear, it is long lasting, lasts for 12 hours, right? So there's 4 different ways that you can sell the same thing. And it all relates back to the person's situation, who your audience is, what is the problem they're trying to solve, and what is the most urgent category in those things. So if you may be looking to target like a woman who wants to look good, you could go with the skin tan sunscreen. Or if you're wanting to have a really protective mother who wants to make sure that their kids get protected but don't get any of the bad negative side effects of the sunscreen, it could be the sunscreen without the chemicals. Okay, so you got to understand your audience because their want and need is different. The mother who's trying to protect the child is more concerned about protection than the lady who wants to have a skin tan, right? So they have different wants and needs. You need to understand that. That's going to change the way that you use your angle. So the angle is very simply, how do you communicate your service, the benefits, the wants and needs of your market? And you want to come up with lots of different angles, because the more angles that you have, the more kind of elements or corners of the market you're going to hit. So having lots of different angles is really key. So the next piece is the mechanism. Now, I kind of alluded to the mechanism when I was talking about the different ways to sell a sunscreen. What you're going to understand is that in a saturated market particularly, but not in every market, but in a lot of saturated markets, people have seen advertising before. They've seen books that claim to have help people do XYZ thing. They have seen diets that people claim to have helped them lose weight. So they've got a little bit of jadedness or a little bit of ad fatigue. So what they want to know is, why is your product and why is your service different from everything else that is out there? And why is this going to be the solution that is going to help me actually get the result that I want? Now, a really good example of this is, let's talk about weight loss again, because weight loss is such a powerful example. If you think right now, what are some of the famous fad diets that are out there? You could probably name 5, right? You've got paleo, you've got carnivore, you've got vegan, you've got vegetarian, you've got the protein shake diet. Now, all of these solve a different problem or come from a different angle. So for the person that is doing carnivore, what the mechanism is you're only eating meat. So the mechanism is the underlying reason as to why the product works. Now, the way you explain it is the reason that eating just meat works is because it reduces inflammation, it reduces any extra glucose or sugars and whatever else. Now, I'm not an expert on this, so if you're a carnivore person going, oh, that's all the wrong information, I'm not here to do a carnivore video. I'm just giving you an example of what a mechanism is. So in a way, carnivore diet is the mechanism, but the mechanism underneath the carnivore diet is the fact that you only eat meat because it reduces inflammation. You lose a lot of weight from it, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's what you've got to understand, is you need to really put together an idea or an argument as to why your service and product is different. Now, it doesn't have to be something as groundbreaking as the carnivore diet, but it needs to be something that is a little bit different and that makes you stand out in the marketplace. It's really important. So the next thing is the promise. So the promise is essentially, what is the bottom line outcome that they're going to get from your product? So if you're selling people advertising, you could say, we're going to help you get 10 more qualified leads, right? Now, you guys have probably read $100 million offers, but it really is true that having a good offer makes a huge difference. And the way to improve your offer or your promise in this case is to use this framework, right? So we have ease, speed, de-risk, new, different. So ease is, if you could lose weight in 24 hours by pushing a button, most people would buy that product. And that is why Ozempic is so popular. It's because it doesn't require gym, doesn't require, you can eat what you want, kind of essentially, but it's like a push button solution, okay? So the more that you can make your solution push button, the better. So if you're selling a book and you have a long, maybe 200,000 word thesis of far-ranging topics that is not very practical and step-by-step, that is taking something from ease to complexity. So the more or the less step-by-step and the less practical and what to do, it's harder to sell because people have to sift through information. It takes longer. So ease is a really big deal. Speed is a really big deal. Ozempic is another really good example. Lose weight fast. Think of the alternative. Do I want to lose weight slow? Nobody wants to lose weight slow. So speed is a big deal. De-risk is a big deal, which is essentially what happens if I don't get the outcome that I want. Imagine if you paid $6,000 or $16,000 and you started taking Ozempic, you dealt with the side effects, you had all these health risks or whatever, and it cost you an arm and a leg, and you didn't lose weight, you would be extremely unhappy, okay? And so what people do when they go to buy things is they have imaginary situations where they think, what if this doesn't work? And they then, from those imaginary scenarios, they ask you, how do I know this is going to work? And so you need to have a question for that. How do people know, or how can you explain that this is going to work? And you need to be able to break it down. So the reason that Ozempic works is because of blah, 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 which does blah, 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 which does blah, blah, blah. Okay, so a really good example of this, if you work with a builder, let's say, and the builder says, we're going to get you your property built in 6 months. Now the person goes, wow, that's awesome. But then suddenly what happens is skepticism kicks in. And this is a really important advertising principle, is that we're balancing belief and skepticism when we're doing advertising. So there's the belief, which shoots up when you say, or even not just belief, it's desire or kind of like, a want. People have that kind of, that urge, like, yes, 6 months, this is awesome. What happens is when you do marketing and when you do advertising and people get that surge of excitement when they look at the fact, what they're thinking in their head is, if I get a house in 6 months, my wife is going to be so happy. We're going to have this amazing kitchen. We're going to be able to show my family and friends, my brother and sister. I'm going to look like the guy that's got it all together. We're going to be able to do da-da-da-da-da. What happens is when people can see, and what that concept is called is future pacing, where people start to, look at the product and the service and what it can do, and then start to think about all the implications, the positive implications. So they go through this internal dialogue or internal movie of, I'm going to be able to do this. We're going to buy a plasma screen. Wives, when they see the house, they're going to go, I'm going to get this beautiful, I've seen in the magazine, this couch, and then da-da-da-da-da. Got these things from Italy, blah, blah, blah. People do that, which is the driving force behind why they buy things. But then what happens is skepticism. What if this doesn't happen? And that's where you as the marketer need to establish and convince that this will happen because of very practical reasons. The reason that we're able to build this in 6 months is because we have enough capacity. We have 100 staff. We only ever take on 10 builds at a time. So we have 10 people per build. And the thing is, you're in our last allocated spot. We never go over allocation. And then they're going to say, what if the weather comes in? And they'll say that may happen. So it may be bumped out by a couple of months, but not more than that. And so you're solidifying the claim, okay? So you want to solidify the claim by de-risking the claim, okay? Now, if you want to take it a step further and de-risk it further and say, if we go over time, you don't pay a cent more, okay? So these are examples of de-risking. Now, if it's new, if you're selling, say, a weight loss product that's new, like if I said, I've got this new Japanese tonic that the ancient samurais used to lose weight, and it works really fast because the Western body isn't used to having this Japanese tonic, people are going to go, I've never heard of Japanese tonic before. I'm going to try that to lose weight. And the reason they do that is because it's new. They've never heard of it before. So never underestimate the power of new. A lot of products might not even be good or might not even be that good, but just because they're new, they get the benefit of the doubt because they're different. They've never been heard before. And so new and different are kind of go hand in hand. Now, this kind of leads in nicely to the bottom line or the overall promise, which it looks like something like this, right? So we help you lose 10 kilos in 20 days without counting calories or meal planning using our 2 in 4 method. Now, what am I doing here, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm giving a promise statement and I'm adding in certain elements here so people can start to visualize and have very specific, concrete kind of milestones that they're going to hit, right? Now, what are they? So we have the bottom line outcome, which is we help you lose 10 kilos. Now, we also have speed. We have it in 20 days. We also have it that, like, what does it avoid? It avoids having to count calories. So therefore it's new, or meal planning. So it's new using our 2 in 4 method, which is the new mechanism. The mechanism is the 2 in 4 method. Okay. So that's how we put together a promise statement. And the thing is, like, you probably, if you're familiar with the coaching, consulting, and blah, blah, blah agency space, you've probably seen that type of talk or that type of statement before. But the statement works all the time. It's not necessarily the statement that is the key. It's what you put in the statement, right? So if you put in something that is genuinely new, if you put in an outcome that people genuinely want, and you have a risk reversal or a speed factor that blows people away, then they're going to buy it. So the importance of the promise or the offer is really key. Now, that is kind of the fundamentals. There are definitely more concepts that we can go into. This is definitely not exhaustive either, but those 4 concepts, the audience, angle, mechanism, and promise, are going to get you pretty well most of the way there. Now, the next thing I want to do is go into how do you apply this into a Facebook ad. So the first thing you want to understand with a Facebook ad is it's either going to be an image or a video. So images tend to work really well. Videos work, I would say they're a little bit more sustainable because they work for longer. And if you can do a video really well that captures attention, entertains people, actually talks about the problem people have and provides a solution in a way that's really clever, videos can knock it out of the park. But images do tend to work really well also because we live in a very fast-paced environment. If people have to watch a video and sit there while they're looking to scroll the reels, it's got to be good, right? But if it's an image, people can instantly see within a second what they're looking at, right? So images do work well. Now, the next thing is the primary text. Okay, so the primary text is the text that is on the ad. So I hope you can see that on the screen. So this here is the primary text. Okay, so it's really important that when you put together the primary text, there is a specific structure behind it. So what I like to do with the primary text is use the following format. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to call out the audience and establish the benefit or poke at the problem. So it's really important that you call out the audience and you establish the benefit. Example, tired of feeling overweight. Okay, so here, who are we calling out? People that are overweight, but we're not actually saying, attention, are you overweight? We're just subtly saying, hey, are you tired of feeling overweight? So we're not even saying that they're overweight, we're saying that they feel overweight, which is really important because perception is a big deal, right? You wouldn't say, attention, overweight person. It's just not a good idea, right? So another thing you can do is add personality and relevancy. So if you're talking to a tradie, for example, you could say, tradies, running out of jobs and high pages not cutting it. That would probably work well. But if you wanted to add a little bit more personality and flair, you could say, high pages delivering SHIT leads. Now, why would you do that? Because tradies tend to use expletives, and it just kind of fits in well with their culture. Okay, so understanding your audience goes a long way, as I said. And if you can use more personality that is relevant to that audience, then it works really well. Now, the next thing is the actual structure of the rest of the ad. So you've got the problem that you're trying to address, right? So you address the problem, you then amplify the problem, you explain the problem, and then you do what I call twist the knife, where you really dig in. Like, this problem's hurting you. You've got to change it, right? So there's nothing worse than not knowing where your next job is coming from, which is not even not getting jobs. It's the feeling of not getting jobs that people hate. They hate that feeling of uncertainty. And so twisting the knife really is important with advertising, because what you got to understand is that people only take action when it really hurts them. They really want to, change. People only really want to make a change when it starts to really hurt them. So that's really important. Then we go to introducing the solution. That's exactly why we released the 4-2 method, why the solution works. This is how we get 4x more leads for tradies. So you want to explain how the solution works, what the solution is. And this is actually a really important one, which you can forget, but this is called the call to action, which is at the end of the text, actually tell people what to do once they've read all that information. And that's usually click learn more now and check it out. So if you use these concepts, which is, you guys can screenshot this. If you use these concepts to put together an ad, I guarantee it will work for you. And there's a practical example of putting together an ad, the structure of the text that you'd use in the Facebook ad, and then put the image and the video together. It works really well. If you guys have any comments or you'd love to get some help with it, there are links in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Welcome back to my YouTube. I know it's been a few weeks since I posted. Thanks for watching. Cheers.